Lithuania is one beautiful and amazing country that doesn't seem to get too much attention around the world. However, it is one interesting place nestled within Europe that has some very majestic surprises that many will enjoy. It is home to a people who have had a history that dates back to even the early days of Europe's beginning, and has a culture and identity that has its own unique heartbeat. And today we are going to learn about it. Welcome to Lithuania. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to FTD Facts, the channel where I look at people, cultures, and places from all around the world. Oh yeah, by the way, my name is Dave Walpole, and yeah, today we're going to be looking at Lithuania. I'm really excited to be talking about this country because it's one that actually I've had a friend go to before, and he was like, man, it's just a beautiful place. So it's cool to actually learn about it. So we're going to get right started into this episode, but before we do, how it works here on FTD Facts, if you haven't been to this channel before and you like learning about different places, hit that subscribe button because that's what we do. And on top of that, if you're liking this video and you want more Lithuanian videos or content, be sure to hit the like buttons because, hey, we get over 5,000 likes, we know to do part 2s. Now, officially the country is known as the Republic of Lithuania, and because of its location, although within Europe, it's actually considered one of the Baltic states, which actually consists of Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia, and are classified as high-income countries. But how many people live in this country? Well, let's take a quick little peek. So according to a 2017 estimate, the country ranks 137th in the world when it comes to population, with a population estimate of approximately 2,800,667 people. And because of the amount of people within this country, it has a population density of 43 people per square kilometer, ranking 173rd in the world. And of course, the density is easily calculated with the population and the land size. And as for Lithuania, it has a land size of approximately 65,300 kilometers square, which makes this country rank 121st when it comes to land sizes of all countries, and it has a water percentage of 1.35%. Now, considering we're talking about population, let's talk about the type of people that actually live within the country. So as of 2015, it's estimated that 86.7% of the people classify as Lithuanians. There's about 5.6% identify as Polish, 4.8% identify as Russian, and 1.3% identify as Belarusian, while 0.7% identify as Ukrainian and 0.9% identify as other. And actually, I'm going to talk about Russia and Poland in a little bit because it's actually rather important why the Polish and the Russians are in Lithuania. Because right now, while I'm on the topic of people, I want to also look at religion. Because for this nation, it's majorly a Catholic country, in which 77.2% of the people identify as Catholic. However, there is also Orthodox, Modern, and Old believers. But it's interesting enough to know that 10% of the population also didn't specify what their religion was, while 6.1% of the population identified as non-religious. Now, of course, while we're on the topic of people and we're on the topic of religion, I also got to mention language, because for Lithuania, they got their own language called Lithuanian, and it is one of the oldest languages in the entire world. This is because Lithuanian is identified as an Indo-European language. And of course, for this video, I can't go into details of how this whole language evolved because that is a lengthy process. But however, it should be mentioned that Indo-European languages actually come from Sanskrit. And as a matter of fact, the oldest written piece of Lithuanian text dates back to around 1503 to approximately 1525, in which is a translation of the Lord's Prayer. However, historians do have a major indication that the language itself existed way long before that. Now, moving right along, let's talk about government and economy. Now, the government of Lithuania is known as a unitary semi-presidential republic, meaning that it has a president and a prime minister, in which currently the president of the country is Dalia Grybauskaitė, who is actually the first woman in history for Lithuania to be president, being elected in 2014. As well, she's the first person in Lithuanian history to ever be re-elected as well. I guess they really like her over there. So for our economy, Lithuania has been a member of the EU since it became a full-fledged member in May of 2004. It's interesting to know that although Lithuania joined the EU during that time, it took a while for the country to actually adopt the euro, which was actually very recent, happening in July of 2015. But before that, they had used what is known as the Lithuanian lita, which were first introduced on October 2nd of 1922. But in today's world, we should probably take a look at the gross domestic product. Now, we use the purchasing power parity because that is a really good way to compare nations. So for the GDP of the country for purchasing power parity, it sits at $96.910 billion. And that is based off of a 2017 number. Now, the per capita ranked 41st in the world, being 34,829. Which actually makes this country the largest country in terms of economy in the Baltic states, with the highest GDP per capita out of all those regions. Now for this, we're going to dive a little bit into the exports and imports of the country because that's very important. It's interesting to know what this country gives out and what this country takes. Because for exports, Lithuania sits at $22.1 billion, ranking 68th in the world. The biggest things that it actually exports are refined petroleum, which is approximately 14% of those exports. 5% of that is furniture or other. 3.5% of that is, oddly enough, rolled tobacco, and 2.9% of that is wheat. Also, if you've ever shopped at IKEA before, believe it or not, you might actually have some wood or furniture that was made in Lithuania. Because for IKEA, it actually owns the biggest wood processing companies in all of Lithuania. And because of that, Lithuania is one of the biggest suppliers of furniture to the company known as IKEA. And actually, it comes in fourth when it comes to wood suppliers and furniture suppliers. And if you think about it, IKEA has been designated the largest company to produce furniture. So you could say that Lithuania is almost the fourth largest country for producing furniture in the world. Maybe? Jumping over to imports, though, let's take a quick peek. They have approximately $26.7 billion in goods for imports, ranking 66th in the world. Their biggest imports are refined petroleum at 9.2% and cars at 3.2%, and of course much more. Because of that, it should be mentioned that Lithuania is considered a very prosperous country, being ranked 14th in the world when it comes to the Ease of Doing Business Index. Now let's take a little break from the numbers and let's just look at some really interesting facts about the country itself. For example, Lithuania itself is not considered a very mountainous country, but is considered a country that has a combination of lowlands and highlands. For example, the highest spot in the country is known as Aukštojas Hill, which has a height of 293.84 feet high. And believe it or not, this hill is kind of important that in 2005 it was actually baptized. I didn't know that. It might be the only baptized hill in the world. Not sure about that. And considering we're talking about land and all those facts, we should probably mention that Lithuania boasts of having over 6,000 lakes within the country of its size, with the largest of this being Lake Drukšia, coming in at a total of 44.8 kilometers square. And it's also important not just because of its maximum depth of 33.3 meters deep with an average depth of 7.6 meters deep, but it's also home to the Ignalina nuclear power plant, which was the only nuclear power plant in Lithuania that was shut down officially in 2009 due to the fact that it had a very similar built to the Chernobyl power plant and also didn't have a sufficient containment unit. That being said, let's also take a quick peek at the energy within Lithuania because this is really interesting. Because did you know that Lithuania generates 27.9% of its power using renewable energy sources? Of course, one of the biggest renewable sources is biomatter, but it's interesting enough that although Lithuania had the plan to get to 23% by 2020, they actually beat that in 2004 when they achieved 23.9%, and still to this day, their renewable energy sources are consistently growing. And as well, for the rest of the power, about 70% of that comes from Sweden, which is connected through the Nord-Balt cable, which is a submarine cable that is 450 kilometers long and lays on the floor of the Baltic Sea. Now, earlier on in this episode, I did mention that there were a lot of Polish and Russian people within the country. Now, I'm bringing it back now because it's rather important to the history of Lithuania. Because for this fact, we're going to talk about how Lithuania has had a very turbulent history when it comes to its independence. As a matter of fact, the country boasts of having 2 Independence Days, but you could say it almost really has 3. Because the first mention of Lithuania as a country was on March 9th, 1009. But then after that, on February 2nd, 1386, it became a union with Poland until they were separated on February 6th, 1918. Which actually makes February 16th their one of 2 Independence Days. After that, unfortunately, on June 15th, 1940, the Soviets occupied the country, and then a year later, on June 22nd, 1941, it was then occupied by the Germans until July of 1944, when it was occupied by the Russians again. However, it wasn't until March 11th of 1990 that independence was restored, and therefore March 11th is the second Independence Day of the country. However, you could theoretically say that September 6th could also be an actual day of independence, because on September 6, 1991, it was officially recognized by the Soviet Union for its independence. With that, I also want to mention the fact that although Estonia was the first ex-Soviet country to join the EU, Lithuania was the first country to actually break off from the Soviet Union. And before we get out of here, one last fact, just for the heck of it. Did you know that Lithuania is home to what is said to be the oldest oak tree in all of Europe? Known as the Stelmuse oak, it's rumored to be anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 years old. And although not a tall tree, only being 23 meters tall, it has definitely seen better days, as the inside of this tree was removed with only the outside branches still alive. But however, it does make you wonder how many people have actually walked by that tree, because it's been around since the Crusades. Interesting. But there you have it, guys. That is a brief look at Lithuania and the great things that are within this country and what it has to offer. Of course, we missed a lot of great facts within this episode, such as culture and a lot of history. Which reminds me, guys, if you guys really like this video and you want a part 2 to us talking about Lithuania, well, hit the like button, because if we get over like 5,000 likes, then I will do more Lithuanian topics. And I just like learning about new places, and I know you guys are probably loving it too. On top of that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out the rest of the videos that we got at the end of this video or in the description box below. And with that, you and I learned today about the great country of Lithuania, a beautiful and elegant place that, although has had a major struggle for independence throughout its history, it stands today as one of the strongest countries in the world, a country that is continuing to contribute to the world in its own unique and fascinating ways. It is home to a people and a culture that is in touch with its roots, while being hard workers and enjoying life for its small and large moments. This is the people, the culture, and the country of Lithuania, who know that success can be found at home and outside its very own borders. Alright, so if you guys like this video and you want some more FTD Facts videos learning about different countries, well, here's some great country videos that you guys can check out. I really do strongly recommend these, because it's always good to just impress your friends with just some basic knowledge about other places around the world. Who knows, you just may travel there one day. But thanks for watching, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you later. Bye.